Welcome to Milan Recording Studios. My name is James Pavel Shakraz, and in today's video, I wanted to do something that's going to be really interesting and really fun. I kind of wanted to do a compilation of sorts of my top 10 favorite digital pianos as of right now, the spring of 2021. The reason I specifically say the time of when I'm making this video is because 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now, as new models get released and old models go out of production, this list will be different then. But as of right now, this is my list for my top 10 favorite digital pianos that are currently can be purchased brand new in the spring of 2021. Now, some of these towards the later end of the list are going to be genuinely high quality, respectable, incredible digital pianos, and then others, like the ones more at the beginning of the list, are simply really awesome for their price point, like this little guy sitting here. So we have a wide range of budgets available here in this list. We have a wide range of quality, a wide range of tonal capabilities, and just everything. It's pretty much the whole range of digital pianos. And for each one, there is sometimes just one, but usually a lot more than that, reasons why I like it. So we're going to be giving a very brief review and introduction of all 10 of these instruments. Now, I have to keep this short because if I do 5 minutes for each digital piano, that amounts to a 50-minute long video plus my intro and my outro. So I have to keep this short, which I'm not good at doing. But if you're very interested in any of these instruments I'm reviewing, be it the YAMAHA PSS-F30 here or the KAWAI MP11SE I'm going to be mentioning at the very end of this video, there will be a full review and sometimes multiple reviews with comparisons and stuff of each of these instruments on my channel. So if you're interested in learning more about any of these instruments in today's video, there is a full video that's probably nearly as long as this video about just that particular instrument. So if you're interested in any of these, go check out those videos after you've watched this video. Thank you very much, and let's dive right in to the YAMAHA PSS-F30. So what is this? Well, essentially it's a $50 YAMAHA keyboard, and you wouldn't expect it to be very good. And sure, compared to a Kawaii MP11SE, it's not very good. But for a $50 instrument, it's actually really amazing. A lot of instruments in that price category are not really fun to play, they sound terrible, they don't have very many features, and they just aren't very cool. But not only would this make a really great toy for a young child, but it would even make a good introductory instrument for a adult. If someone wanted to learn the notes of the piano and learn the very basics of how to play the piano, and they wanted to do so on an extreme budget, and they wanted to have an instrument that has a lot of cool sounds, a lot of cool features, all for a really low price point, this is your go-to guy. And it's $50, and I can't believe the amount of functionality and the actual decent amount of sounds and the decent quality of them that Yamaha has packed in there. On top of having over 120 different sounds, most of which sound pretty acceptable for $50, you also have quite a few different styles and songs to listen to and to play along with. Hidden inside of the keys are a whole bunch of functions like transposing, tuning, having a metronome, turning up and down the volume of your songs and mixing that independently of the voice that you're playing on the keys, sync start, chord fingering, changing the key of the smart chord thing, and just a few other little things too. So you have a lot of control over this instrument for this price point, which you don't usually see in that price point. To give you a very basic idea of what the instrument sounds like, this is being recorded, by the way, out of the headphone jack with that red cable. I'll just play a couple of chords on the default piano sound. So of course your sounds are going to be pretty simple for $50, but the key bed that's included, while it is simple and while it is small, is surprisingly playable, and you can actually have a lot of fun with this instrument. For example, let's cue up a sound here. I believe that sound number 8 is the one I want. Let's test it out. It wasn't, but that's actually a really cool sound, so I decided to play with it a little bit. Maybe it's 7. That's the one I wanted, number 6. Then we can go to the song style. We can choose, let's say, beat 111, and then we can have some fun. We can also transpose the the auto chord functionality to be in the key of D major, which we can do so right here. So now all I have to do is push one single key, and the left hand of, or the accompaniment will be playing a D major chord, and then I can play over that with my right hand, which is really, really cool. And so for someone who wants to learn about perhaps how to do solos or what sort of melodies work over what type of chord, that is a really cool thing. And since it does a lot of the hard work of playing chords for you, it also just makes playing the instrument easier. There's also an option where you can manually play whatever chord you want to in the left hand too, which is also awesome. So it's simple fun, but it's good fun, and finding a genuinely playable instrument that's actually enjoyable to play, even for someone who really knows how to play the piano, that's pretty rare to find an instrument that, although geared towards a younger, simple audience, is still fun to play, even when you're more experienced. That's awesome, and being able to find that for $50, I think, is pretty rare. So that's why I love the PSS-F30. It's great for the younger crowd. It's great for someone who just wants to have a simple instrument to learn how to play the piano. You can run it off of batteries. You can power it via a micro USB cable. You've got a headphone jack. The keyboard's very quiet, so if you're playing it with headphones, you're not going to be bothering anyone, really. And it's fun. And that is why I like the PSS-F30. Great fun at a super low price. Let's move on to the next instrument. The next instrument on the list is the Casio CTS200, and it has a few similarities with the previous instrument on the list, one of those similarities being that it is, once again, very affordable, although you could also think of our budget having needed to be doubled, or actually more than doubled, to be able to buy this instrument, since it comes in at around $120 US. Having said that, although the budget has been doubled, it is still incredibly affordable, and typically digital pianos, keyboard instruments, on the new market at that price point are usually pretty terrible, and this one isn't. It is actually very, very fun, just like the YAMAHA we already have seen. This instrument has a lot of the same features, the accompaniment features, and many, many tones. This instrument has actually more. It has 400 tones. And although many of them aren't quite as nice as the ones found on that YAMAHA we just saw, there are more of them, and they are still quite fun. This is the sound of the default grand piano. And you may be noticing something interesting, and that is that this instrument supports the use of a damper pedal, which is really, really cool and definitely sets it apart from the YAMAHA we just reviewed, which does not have any damper pedal input. You also have headphone jacks on this instrument. You've got a USB port. You have this really convenient carrying handle, so it's extremely portable. You also have bigger keys and a wider range now, which is really great. So this unlocks the doors to more music. The keys are not touch sensitive on the CTS200, but for a bit more money, you can get the CTS300, which has 2 levels of touch sensitivity. This instrument also comes with a music desk, which geniusly fits right into the carrying handle, and I absolutely love that. And the music desk itself is actually very sturdy, and at least as far as backwards pressure is concerned, it's just as sturdy as a professional music desk, although of course it's just sitting there, so it is rather loose, but nonetheless the music desk is very functional, which is super cool. And let's have a little bit of fun with this instrument and demo some of the other tones as well as the accompaniment feature, which is kind of a big selling point for these lower cost instruments. Let's use the octave piano tone, which basically takes the default piano and octaves it. And then we can turn on the rhythm. We can set the tempo to be 116. I like the little wheel here. It makes navigating the menu very, very easy. You also have a nice LCD screen here that is pretty easy to read and understand what's going on. We can start the rhythm, and then we can begin to play and have some fun. So you can have fun with this instrument as well, and you've got quite a few tones at your disposal. You've got 2 speakers now, it comes in fun colors, and again, for the price point of $120 US, the Casio CTS200 is pretty difficult to beat in that market. Again, like the Yamaha we just reviewed, it not only would make a very good toy for a child, but again, for someone who's a little bit older who wants to get into learning how to play the piano, this instrument will introduce you to the basics, and while the action feels nothing like a real piano, it actually does kind of teach you some of the correct elements of playing the piano, one of them being that it's very easy to re-trigger the notes on accident. And so when you're playing this instrument, you want to make sure that your hands are definitely deep into the key when you're playing it, so that if you play with a light touch, you might accidentally re-trigger notes. And playing deep into the key is a thing in real acoustic pianos, so on some aspects, this instrument is teaching good habits to an extent. So as a whole, the Casio CTS200, whoop, see what I mean? Very easy to accidentally trigger. The Casio CTS200 is a very fun instrument, and on that aspect of the light action, there are a whole bunch of different organ tones in the instrument, and so playing organ sounds on this instrument is very fun and very easy, because the action is more like an organ's action than a piano's action. Nonetheless, very fun instrument to play. Let's move on to the next instrument on the list, however. The Donner DEP-20, as you can see, is vastly different from the instruments we have just gotten done looking at. The DEP-20 features 88 fully weighted keys and is completely capable of doing touch sensitivity, unlike the first 2 instruments we've seen. So for those of you looking for a very affordable weighted action digital piano, this is one of your options, and there's a few other options out there, and this is one of the best, right up alongside the Innovis i88, which features many of the same sounds, many of the same features of the Donner DEP-20, but does have some advantages. The Donner DEP-20 looks like a $300 and some odd dollar, close to $400 digital piano, whereas the Innovis i88 is the same price, but looks more like a $600 to $700 digital piano. It's very, very attractive. The Donner DEP-20, though, again, is a very great option for this price point if you're looking for the most affordable, fully weighted 88-key digital piano that money can buy. The Donner DEP-20 and the Innovis i88 are your most solid choice. The Donner DEP-20 has normal sounds like that acoustic piano, but you've also got some pretty fun ones in here too. Let me quickly demo possibly my favorite sound in the whole instrument. you've got fun sounds like that that are genuinely good, normal sounds that you can use for your day-to-day practicing, and while the Donner DEP-20 does lack some of the more professional features that we'll find in some of the instruments to come, it still is a very competitive instrument within this price bracket, specifically for the fully weighted 88-key digital piano category. Let's move on to the next instrument. We return to the tiny form factor of these toy pianos for this next instrument, the YAMAHA REFACE CP, and while it may look like a toy piano, it's actually anything but. I think of this instrument as being a professional level instrument in the form factor of a toy piano, and it's super, super neat, and it's a wonderful idea. If you've never heard of these, essentially what Yamaha's done with the REFACE line is they've taken professional sounds, professional features, and professional sound quality, and packed it all into a tiny, extremely portable instrument. I actually used this on a near daily basis on my my most recent semester in college, and I would actually take it with me when I was, in a music theory class via Zoom, and I would be able to play and mess around with the theoretical ideas we were talking about in class on the REFACE CP, no matter where I was. It can run on batteries, it can run on power, you've got a headphone jack, it supports a sustain pedal. What's also really cool is that it also supports direct line outputs, which is how we're recording this instrument. You can see these big beefy cables here, so you've got proper stereo direct line outputs, you've got a DIN MIDI input, you have a USB port, you've got all the professional features and a bunch of professional effects just on tap whenever you want to play them. It's awesome. So the YAMAHA REFACE CP has just a lot of fun potential, but also a lot of serious potential to it too. You can use it seriously. I've used it extensively for my music education in the last few months, if you're practicing music theory, if you're practicing simple things like that. But even you can, of course, play actual music on it, and I found it very helpful for practicing jazz music on, because the jazz music I've been working on doesn't use much more of a register than this. So I've been able to practice the basic elements of some of the jazz pieces I've been working on, work on chord voicings and things like that on this instrument with the privacy of headphones whenever and wherever I felt like it. It also does not come with this, but you can actually get a really cool soft cover for it, which is amazing. On to the next instrument. Returning to the form factor of an 88-key digital piano with weighted keys, we now have the Kawaii ES110, and while it is excellent in its price class, it is also very comparable to other digital pianos that are much more expensive, surprisingly. In both terms of its build quality and its action performance, the ES110 actually rivals its cousins, the ES520 and the ES920 in performance, although you will notice a noticeable sound performance upgrade with the Kawaii ES920. The ES110 sounds, however, though, are definitely not too shabby. Take a listen. I really love the default piano sound. Not only is the default acoustic piano sound really nice, but you also have some really fun electric pianos. This one's my personal favorite. Boasting a stereo pair of direct line outputs as well as a headphone jack, the Kawaii ES110 is suitable for both a live location playing for a gig or playing at home, and it's so light and portable that it's super easy to practically, and I'm exaggerating a little bit, but you can practically tuck it under your arm and take it with you anywhere. It's very portable, very slim, but yet its action has none of the performance drawbacks that other slim-bodied digital pianos tend to have. The sounds are really great, especially for the price point. And the build quality is very acceptable for the price point, and even when compared to higher tier digital pianos. The user interface is very simplistic and very minimalistic, but it doesn't have a lot of the stumbling blocks that other minimalistic digital piano user interfaces have, and it's very intuitive, and just the overall experience with the Kawaii ES110 is fantastic. It also comes with a really phenomenal damper pedal unit straight out of the box, which is great. And it's just a wonderful digital piano, and I absolutely love the Kawaii ES110. I'm going to be doing a business trip in a little bit, and I want to bring a digital piano with me so I can keep practicing when I'm on the road. And this is the instrument I'm going to be taking with me for a myriad of reasons. I just love the ES110. Let's move on to the next instrument. If the Kawaii ES110 was relatively light and portable, the YAMAHA P515 is anything but. However, the reason for this is partly because the build quality is so much higher than on the ES110. While we do have a primarily plastic build construction, the quality of said plastic is very solid and feels very durable. You've got these cool shiny plastic end caps, a solid metal front plate here, and a very stout underside made of plastic too. So you've got a really solid build quality. The keys here have wooden sides, and the action, although it does take a little bit of time to get used to, once you do get used to it, feels amazing, and you can play practically anything on this instrument, from very simple music, which I will play, to more advanced classical, which I will also play in this little video clip. But first, let's play a little bit of a Cavatine by Edward Shute on the default piano sound, the CFX Grand. If the CFX Grand is a little bit too bright for you, there's also the Bösendorfer sampled piano, which sounds absolutely lush and warm. This instrument has a wide variety of electric piano sounds. This one, the Soft EP, is my personal favorite, and here's some Schubert to go along with it. While that piece is very taxing on the right hand and it requires a lot of endurance, it was practically effortless to play on this action, which is part of the reason I love the P515. You've also got some other really cool sounds in here too. Here is a harpsichord, and then I'm going to do some splitting and sound changing and layering to create some interesting effects here with some Scarlatti. Like, that's just amazing. The things you can do with the Yamaha P515 are really, really great. You have a wide variety of really good sounds, an excellent action to play them with, very nice, very powerful, loud speakers to play them through, and you also have a very in-depth menu that you can go through to change many, many effects and features in the piano itself. You can turn off the reverb, you can do all sorts of different things through the menu of the instrument. But what's really cool is a lot of the things in the menu aren't things you're probably going to need to access on a day-to-day basis, so you don't need to do a lot of menu diving to access the core features of the instrument, which I really, really love. The P515 is a really, really solid instrument, and although no instrument is truly perfect, I really, really love the Yamaha P515. The next three instruments in this video, the Korg SV2 included, aren't really in any particular order. While thus far in this video we've pretty much been increasing in quality as we've been going along, the next three instruments can all really pretty much be interchanged, but I can't pick a favorite because all three of them are so good at what they do. The instrument I have sitting in front of me here is the Korg SV2, the successor to the legendary Korg SV1, which held its own on the market for over 10 years, and the Korg Korg SV2 will probably do the very same. It is an incredibly well-built keyboard, it is an incredibly good sounding keyboard, and what I like even more than the sounds that are built into it, which there are a lot of them, and almost all of them are really, really good, but not only do you have these really good sounds, but you also have a huge amount of control over them. For example, here is the default Fender Rhodes sound. You may have noticed that there was this little action noise, the noise of the mechanical action components flopping around and making noise, and on most digital pianos that's baked into the sound and you can't do anything about it. But on the Korg SV2, you push the function button, your EQ section becomes a mixer, and then you can turn off those little action noises and they're gone forever. So just on that aspect alone, you have a huge amount of control with the sounds, but it gets so much more. You have 6 different pre-effects, each of which you can change the speed and intensity of them. Compressor, treble boost, tremolo, wah, etc. The wah is really awesome. You have 6 different amplifier effects which simulate vintage amplifiers of different types, and while they don't really sound like a vintage amp to me, they definitely color the sound dramatically, and they're really pretty awesome. You also have 6 different modulation effects over here, things like choruses, phasers, flangers, and a rotary speaker effect. Again, you can change the speed and intensity of these, and you also have your ambient effects over here, your reverbs and things like that. These effects can be applied to any and all of the tones in the instrument, and you can dramatically change the sound of these instruments. For example, let's say we take this Wurlitzer tone, one of my favorites in the whole instrument. That little hiss that's in there is giving it this really cool lo-fi sound. For example, if we were to turn on the Vox wah, if we were to take the amp and crank that all the way up to, let's say, around 8, we then get a completely different sound. If you don't like that type of sound, that's totally understandable, but I just think it's super, super cool that you have that ability to create these incredibly wacky sounds with something seemingly so normal simply by turning 2 different knobs. The power of the Korg SV2 is amazing. And not only can you do a lot of really cool things like that, but you have a lot of neat sounds to play with. You have 6 different sound categories, each with 12 different sounds in each bank. Your first bank is electric pianos. Actually, your first 2 banks are electric pianos. Your next 2 banks are acoustic pianos. Then you've got clavinets, organs, and other types of sounds. And there's all kinds of really great tones in every bank. On a lot of digital pianos, I find I'll usually realize I like 1 or 2 of the sounds and not everything else. On this, I dislike 1 or 2 of the sounds and I like everything else, which is not that common to find. I love nearly every single sound in the Korg SV2. You have acoustic pianos. And that pedal noise can be removed just like the action noise of the Fender Rhodes could be removed. You have a second piano category that has some pretty cool stuff in it. Your clavier section has some clavinet type sounds. And it also has some organ sounds, almost all of which are really, really fantastic. You've got the Leslie rotary speaker effect at the push of button right here, and you've also got some splendid pipe organ sounds too. There's so much that I'm skipping over, but for the sake of time, I'm just going through this really, really quickly. If you're liking what you're seeing, go check out my full review of the Korg SV2. It's just such a wonderful keyboard, and it keeps growing on me. The more and more I use it, the more and more I like it. The others category has a bunch of really, really cool things, like a super expressive strings pad. And if you liked the Scarlatti being played on the Yamaha P515 with the harpsichord and the pipe organ, you're really going to love this Scarlatti. Check this out. And the orchestral sounds just keep on coming. Like, I'm going over my time limit of 5 minutes here because the Korg SV2 is just, there's too much to talk about. It's great. But I think for brevity's sake, we must move on to the next keyboard in the list. As you can see, the Korg SV2 is just amazing, and I haven't even talked about half the other stuff I wanted to in this segment. 5 minutes is just not enough time to express how great this thing is. One definite downside to the Korg SV2 is that it is very heavy, especially the speaker variant, which I reviewed just a second ago. This is partly a good thing. It means it's very, very well constructed, but so is this instrument, the Vikon Legend 70s. And the Vikon Legend 70s, partly because it has no speakers, and partly because Vikon has put a lot of attention to detail in all the right places, the Legend 70s remains having a very, very high build quality, but also a very lightweight. Trust me, I moved both of them. So if you're looking for an instrument that's really, really ideal for gigging, the SV2 will certainly work, but the Legend 70s would also be an excellent option. Much like the Korg SV2, the Vikon Legend 70s is meant to emulate, its main goal is to emulate the vintage stage pianos of the 1970s, hence the name Legend 70s. So when you first boot it up, your default sound is a Fender Rhodes. If you thought that sounded good, but a little bit dry, that's because there were zero effects added to that at all, and the effects are where the Vikon Legend 70s gets insane, for all the good reasons. For example, over here in the effects menu, you have 8 different types of effects: tremolo, chorus, flanger, phaser, wah, amp, delay, and others. And within each category, you have 10 to 12 different variants of each effect. Yeah. You also have 6 different types of reverb, and again, within each category, you have 2 to 3, sometimes 4 different types of each reverb. You can then customize the amount and the dry, wet balance of the reverb with this knob right here. You can toggle these effects on and on with these buttons right here. You can even have 2 different effects from the same effects category running at once. You can also route each effect to a separate place, and each of these sections is actually a separate module that you can remove and have not installed in the instrument if you so wish, or you can simply rotate them around and put them in a different order. That's one of the main selling points of the Legend 70s. It's modular. So for example, you can take the tremolo effect and route it to the electric piano section, and then take the wah effect and route it to the clavinet section, and have that all be done just within the click of a few buttons. It's incredibly intuitive, but yet at the the same time, it goes into a depth of effect combinations and layering unlike any instrument I have ever seen before. To layer sounds together is as simple as turning on two modules at the same time. Boom, consider it done. The amount of control you have with the tone and the quality of the tones found in the Vikon Legend 70s is incredible. Absolutely insane. So let me just give you a quick little demonstration here of a few of these default sounds. They've got a bunch of presets that are all awesome layered in here. Here is the true default Rhodes sound with a tremolo, with an amp simulation, with an effect, looks like it's one of the other effects, and some reverb on it. Here it is all dolled up. There are so many wonderful features of the Vikon Legend 70s that I'm just simply going to have to gloss over in this video for the sake of time. The video I did of the Legend 70s by itself was over an hour long because there was just simply that much to talk about. In the electric piano category, you have 8 different types of electric pianos, 5 different Rhodeses, 2 different Whirlies, and 1 electric grand. In the sound collection module, kind of like the effects, you have 8 different types of sound, pads, strings, choirs, etc. But within each section, you've got up to 14 to 15 different variants of each sound. For the clavinet section, you only have 2, but you have an intense amount of control over the clavinet tone, and you also have some acoustic pianos down here at the very end. The Vikon Legend 70s is an intense instrument, but yet at the same time it's easy to use, the build quality is awesome, the action feels great to play, and the sounds are wonderful to listen to. All of that combined together makes the Vikon Legend 70s a truly phenomenal instrument, and this is kind of why I can't really put this over the Crewmark 7, which is coming up next, or the Korg SV2. They're all just together. They're all one, and they all pair so well with each other. They all do things. Some do some things better than others, but all 3 of them are phenomenal instruments. I can't really say that one of these 3 instruments is better than the next, but the Crewmark 7 does have some truly incredible features that even the awesome Vikon Legend 70s could never dream of doing. Let's go check out the Crewmark 7. Much like the Vikon Legend 70s and the Korg SV2, the Crewmark 7 is another one of these digital pianos that intends to emulate the vintage keyboards of the 1960s and 1970s, as well as the 1980s. However, the Crewmark has taken a bit of a different approach with the instrument. Unlike the Vikon, which has a wide variety of sounds, and the SV2, which also has a wide variety of sounds, Crewmark has narrowed it down to just the core essentials. You have Fender Rhodes, Wurlitzer sound, electric grand like a Yamaha CP80, the clavinet, the Yamaha DX type sound. They also threw in a Roland MKS EP. Then they also have vibraphone and grand piano sound. So those are the only sounds you'll get on the Crewmark 7. However, most of them are really, really insanely good, especially the Fender Rhodes tone, the sound it boots up on first. Another way that Crewmark has intended to emulate the vintage feel is with the action, which doesn't replicate a acoustic piano, but instead emulates the feel of a Fender Rhodes. And I think it does a pretty decent job of doing that. It's got that clunky, chunky feel that is really satisfying to dig into and play. Also, like the Vikon Legend 70s, Crewmark has really taken much attention to detail, not only with the tones that are in here, which you'll hear, but also with the build quality, focusing on keeping it as light as possible. This may even be lighter than the Vikon, I'm not entirely sure, but retaining a nice solid build quality with metal and wood components. Let's hear the default Fender Rhodes tone with no effects on the Crewmark 7. And as you can hear, despite the fact that it has no effects, it sounds really, really good. The bass is growly, the mid-tone is just really good, and the Fender Rhodes sound is one of the biggest strong points of the Crewmark 7. But another really strong point of this instrument is the effects. Like the SV2 and like the Viscount, you have a pretty wide variety of effects, although not as intense as with the Viscount. That instrument is just on a whole different level. On the Crewmark 7, you have 4 different effects in one category: tremolo, pan, auto wah, and pedal wah. And in the second category, you've got your chorus, your phaser, your flanger, and your delay. You can have both categories on, but you can't have 2 effects from one category on at the same time, unlike the Viscount. And these effects are really good. Let's take a listen here to the auto pan, and I'll play with the controls a little bit. And I'm not really going to talk too much about all of the effects in the instrument. Instead, we're going to talk about my favorite effect, the reverb. Now, while the Viscount and the SV2 both have reverb, I think the reverb in the Crewmark SV2, the Crewmark SV2, the Crewmark 7 is by far the best. It sounds so ethereal and so incredible. And you have a massive amount of control over all of your effects, as you can see. To take this knob into the red zone, which is its maxed out effect, you have to turn it quite a lot, which is both a blessing and a curse, but the positive side to that means that you have a massive amount of control, and you can dial these effects in to precisely where you want them to be. I've dialed up a preset with the DX type sound with as much reverb and even some delay cranked in here as possible, the maximum amount you can really feasibly get, just to show you how beautiful this instrument can be. Find me another digital piano that can do that. I'll wait. I don't think you'll be able to do it, unless it's a Crewmark 7. It's just so incredible, the amount of things this instrument can do and how good it sounds doing them. I don't typically like the sound of a Yamaha CP80, but I really love it on the Crewmark 7. Check this out. It sounds very well put together, even the low registers. Usually these types of sound kind of sound not so great down in the low bass, but even this instrument sounds really good in the lowest notes of the instrument. And just the whole CP80 sound is awesome. The clavinet sounds like it's straight off of a Bill Withers album. It's amazing. I'm not actually going to play any Bill Withers or anything really copyrighted, but it sounds really good. And the attention to detail that Crewmark has gone to means that none of the instruments are going to extend past their original range, so the Wurlitzer sound isn't going to go below, I think it's a low A. So Crewmark has put a lot of attention to detail into these tones. Another one I really love, I already showed you, the DX type sound. I'm also normally not a huge fan of that type of sound. I feel like it's usually so overplayed that my brain just says, enough! But it's so beautiful on the Crewmark 7. It's just really gorgeous. The MKS that they've put in here is really cool sounding. And the vibraphones and the grand piano are also really, really cool. So the Crewmark 7 is, again, another one of my favorite instruments. It lacks some of the insane amount of features that the Vikon Legend 70s and even the Korg SV2 have, but the quality of its core tones and its core effects is so incredibly good, and the amount of detail, the attention to detail Crewmark has put into some of these sounds is just unreal. On the Fender Rhodes tone, when you push the pedal down, you get the sound of the pedals lifting off, of the tines like you'd have in a real Fender Rhodes, and it's not overdone, it's not too loud, it's just perfect. On the low bass notes, you can hear just all sorts of different imperfections that are just absolutely perfect. When you play octaves in the low bass, they're ever so slightly out of tune. Which is really cool. If you play notes percussively, you'll hear the sound of all the action mechanism falling back into place, and it's a slightly different sound for each note. Right? Like, the amount of attention to detail that Crewmark has put into this, especially that Rhodes sound, is just unreal, incredible, and I love the Crewmark 7. Again, it's another great choice for gigging. It's super light, super portable, comes with a protective wooden case, comes with its own legs that can store inside of the case. The playing experience is great. The listening experience is fantastic. Crewmark did an amazing job with the 7, and this is kind of why I can't really say one of these instruments is better than the other. The Crewmark 7, the Vikon Legend 70s, and the Korg SV2 are all amazing at different things, but they're all really good, so I had to put all three of them in this video. I just couldn't help myself. It is now time for the final digital piano on the list, my number one pick for best stage piano of all time. And where is it? Well, funny thing is, I don't actually have it here at the studio right now, but the number one pick for my top favorite digital piano of all time is the Kawaii MP11SE. For a stage piano, in my opinion, it is the best digital piano that you can get that comes the closest to replicating the things that a piano can do and more. The Kawaii MP11SE is built like a tank, and yes, it's heavy. That is a downside of it, but it is going to be virtually indestructible. It is probably going to last 10 or 15 years if you take decent care of it, and its action is absolutely incredible, and the tones that it makes are also really, really amazing. The acoustic piano sound that you'll find in the Kawaii MP11SE is just absolutely top-notch and flagship. It's just stunning to listen to, and many of the other sounds in the instrument are also really, really good. It's got electric pianos, it's got other different variants of acoustic piano, it's got all kinds of stuff going on, and you have a lot of control and customization over the tone, kind of like you do on the instruments we've already seen, like the SV2 and the Vikon Legend 70s. Not that level of control, but you can go in there and change many aspects of the acoustic piano and even the electric piano's tones and qualities and things about them. But the number one thing I really love about the MP11SE is that action, the grand feel action from Kawaii. In a stage piano or a slab piano, it's basically about as close as you're gonna get to a real acoustic piano, for a digital piano anyways, and Kawaii has put a lot of effort into making that action feel like a piano, hence the name Grand Feel. It's modeled after a grand piano, and I think they've done a very, very good job with it. The keys sticks are very, very long, so when you play in at the back of the key, the weight is the same as when you're playing at the front of the key, and just the overall feel and the weight and the response and the substantialness of the action is just perfect. It's just absolutely perfect. I love to play the Kawaii MP11SE, and even the old MP11, which doesn't sound as good, still uses the same action, so much of your playing experience will be pretty similar between the MP11 and the MP11SE. The new SE just sounds a lot better. So why don't I have one? Well, I used to actually have an old MP11, and I loved it. I played it every single day and practiced on much of my piano repertoire on that instrument. Then after a while, I decided I wanted to try out an MP11SE, so I sold my old MP11 to someone who wanted it just a little bit more than I currently wanted it, and then I never actually bought an MP11SE, which is really funny. I instead decided to buy things for other video reviews, but I did actually get an MP11SE loaned to me by the awesome Benjamin Kim of Kim's Pianos in California. So that is the instrument that you'll be seeing in the video. I did have one at one point on loan to me. So let's roll a clip of some beautiful piano music being played on the Kawaii MP11SE by yours truly, and listen to how beautiful it is. I really hope that you all have enjoyed this video of my top 10 favorite digital pianos. This video has actually been a lot of fun to do. It's been a really odd challenge trying to condense everything there is to say about a really cool digital piano in 5 minutes or less, and admittedly, I failed. The video of the Crewmark that I did for this video was over 10 minutes, but for some of these instruments, it's just difficult to express how much I love them in even under 10 minutes because they're so incredible. And everything I think in this video, from the very simple and very fun PSS-F30 all the way up to the flagship cream of the crop MP11SE, everything in this video I think really shines in its own right. The PSS-F30 is just a whole lot of fun for $50, and for that price point in the new market, you're not going to find anything that is as good, I don't think. The Casio CTS200 is also in a similar market. For $100 US, you're going to have a lot of fun. You get to learn the basics of playing the piano for only $100 in something that's really portable and has an awesome form factor. The Donner DEP-20 again is great for learning the piano, and if you're in a very tight budget but you want something with 88 keys, either the Donner DEP-20 or the Innovis i88 will be a really good choice for you. I think up next I had the REFACE CP, which was the little tiny professional quality instrument in the form factor of a toy piano. I love the idea. I use that thing a lot, and it's just a lot of fun to play, kind of like the toy pianos except on a professional scale. The Kawaii ES110 not only holds its own against the instruments in its market, but also against more expensive instruments, and is a wonder to play. The YAMAHA P515, again, similar story, very competitive in its price bracket, but also still holds a candle to more expensive instruments. I think after the P515, we had the Korg SV2, the Vikon Legend 70s, and the Crewmark 7. Not going to talk too much about them here because I've already said so much about them before, but all three of those are fantastic. And then finally, at the end of the video, the MP11SE, the king of the crop, absolute incredible, built like a tank, insanely high quality digital piano that feels premium, and it is premium. So those are my top 10 picks for 2021 of my favorite digital pianos across all of the price ranges, everything from the very cheap to the very expensive. So I really hope that you have enjoyed this video. It was a blast for me to make. I thought it was really fun, and hopefully you all thought it was fun to watch as well. I know at the end of the day this video is going to be very long, but hopefully you have watched much of it, and hopefully you did enjoy what you saw. So if you did enjoy it and you've made it all the way to the end of this video, thank you so very much for watching this video, and if you enjoyed it, you might want to go check out my channel if you're new. I've got lots of cool videos of acoustic pianos, digital pianos, and all kinds of other cool things that fall somewhere in between those two categories. So if any of that sounds cool, you might want to think about subscribing, and if you do subscribe, thank you very much. Go sign up for my Patreon if you're interested. I've been releasing music on there and doing things like that, so it's pretty cool. If you want to do that and support the channel that way, thank you also so very much, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.